Hey guys, this is Danny from One Twisted Tree, and today I wanted to talk to you about Portuguese knitting, or Portuguese style knitting. And I kind of came across this by accident, but I thought I'd give it a try. I found this pattern for baby booties to knit in the Portuguese style by Andrea Wong. This is the first little baby booty that I've knit, and I'm working on the second one now. It is knit flat and then seamed, and she has a YouTube video on Knitting Daily that she kind of walks you through the different steps on how to do all of the stitches using the Portuguese style. I think this is a really fun project to try knitting in the Portuguese style. It's really small, it goes pretty quickly, and you know, it's fun to try something new. The thing I wanted to talk to you about today, though, is that while Andrea Wong and the Knitting Daily video is really informative, I thought I could kind of make some comments on how somebody who usually knits Continental found it, the differences maybe that I found and some things that helped me along the way. So the first thing is, usually I hold my yarn like this. I don't really tension it unless you call this tensioning. I know some people, do all kinds of things with their fingers, and I don't. I knit so tightly that I don't tension too much. I just kind of drape it over. And I always, knitting Continental, I hold it in my left hand. Knitting Portuguese style, can put it around my neck, so I have the working yarn from the ball coming this way, and then I've draped it around my neck and I'm pulling it this way. I could also use like a little, they have a brooches sometimes, and I tried using a safety pin, but I felt like this maybe worked a little bit better for me. As for the tensioning, she suggests in the video to loop it over your middle finger. That resulted in this Kevlar type density at the bottom. So I tried knitting it, just draped over my pinky, and I think that kind of draped over my pinky and my thumb kind of gave me the best results. I knit pretty tight if I have too much tensioning on it. So that was the first thing, is just trying to tension with the right hand, and tensioning in a different style was a little bit hard to do. So the other thing is your knit stitches and your purl stitches are different. So I guess let's just jump right in. To start with, your knit stitches, this yarn is going to come over the top of your needle. And you're going to put your needle in, and in Continental I would put it in, and I'd put it in behind here. In the Portuguese, I'm going to put it in the front, and I'm just going to use my thumb to flick that yarn over top of it and then pull it out. And you'll notice that the yarn ends up on the top here. So I'm putting my needle in knitwise, but I'm crossing it in front, flicking the thumb and pulling it back. So we'll do it just a few more times. Putting it in knitwise, crossing it in the front, flicking the yarn over with my thumb and pulling it back out. And again, that yarn is just on the top. So once I practiced with this a little bit, I got better at it. Certainly, the first baby booty and the first couple rows, even though I knit this swatch, went rather slowly. But I stuck with it, and I was pretty happy with how it turned out. The other thing that you should know about Portuguese knitting, besides the fact that it's pretty easy on your hands, I think, because I really spent quite a few hours learning this new technique, and my hands didn't feel you know, achy or anything at all. I think if anything felt achy, it was probably my neck, because I was holding the yarn around my neck, and I I hold a lot of tension in my neck, especially when I'm trying something new. I'm trying to do it properly. And so I think a lot of that resulted in, you know, a little bit of tension in my neck. So that was the knit stitch. If we turn it over here, then I'll show you the purl. The purl stitch is actually really simple. So you're going to have the yarn, and for the purl stitch it's going to be below the needle. Remember, on the knit stitch it was above the needle. For the purl it's going to be below. So you're just going to put your needle in as if to purl. Then using your thumb you're going to flick that yarn right over and pull it out. So needle in purlwise, again in the front, just like you would regularly, flick it over and remove that stitch. The one problem I have with the purl is that I haven't quite mastered the flick and release, I guess you could call it. It doesn't go as fast for me as a knit stitch, but I think a lot of people would really enjoy this kind of purl stitch. So if you are a person who avoids purl stitches like the plague, this may be something for you. The one problem that, it's not really a problem, but the one thing I did notice in the pattern is that at some points it asks you to knit purl across the row. Let me finish this row here. And so that requires a little bit of attention if you're just starting out. So on the first stitch, we're going to knit this first stitch, and on the first stitch of a row, you want to make sure that your needle is under this yarn, because remember, we want our working yarn to come up over the top. So we're going to put our needle underneath this and insert as if to knit, flick it over, and pull it out. So now we have our knit stitch. If we're going to purl, we need to flick that yarn down below and then purl. If we're going to move from a purl to a knit, we have to flick that yarn above the needle and knit it. And now we're going to purl, so we're going to move the yarn below and purl. So when I was doing this pattern, I watched the video from Knitting Daily, and I understood the knits and the purls, but when I got to the knit purl across, essentially what I did was I kept the yarn in, I think maybe over top as I was knitting, and what that resulted in was a whole bunch of yarn overs. So I kind of tinked back and thought, oh yes, I need to move this yarn. So that was something that I needed to figure out. The other thing, let's knit a few rows here, or a few stitches. The other thing that is different with the Portuguese style is yarn overs. And yarn overs are so simple in, well, they're so simple anyway, but they're really simple in Portuguese knitting. So let's say you're knitting across, as I've done here. Knitting across, and I'm going to do a yarn over next. I'm just going to flick that yarn underneath. And now I need to knit the next stitch, so I'm just going to put it in and flick it over this way. So what that did is, you'll see here, this is my yarn over stitch and this is my knitted stitch. So you need to have your yarn over the top if you're going to knit it, unless you're going to yarn over. And then you flick it to the bottom and it adds the yarn over here as you're knitting this stitch. Pretty cool, huh? Knit two togethers are done the same way. You're going to keep that yarn over the top, pick up these two stitches right up in front and flick it over. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So that's not too bad. Let's turn around right here. We'll head back the other way. And you can see here that I'm not even tensioning here. I feel like there's enough on my neck that I'm usually pretty happy with it, especially if I'm wearing a hoodie, but it just depends on what I've got. So let's do an SSK. Let me show you that because that is used in the baby booty pattern here. So I was kind of dumbfounded by the SSK because I wasn't quite sure how to do that. So I looked it up online, and you're going to slip as if to knit, slip as if to purl. Then you're going to put these stitches back on, and you're going to slip this right needle through the back loops, flick the yarn with your thumb, and then just grab it. And there's your SSK. So then you can continue on purling as you need. You can see we're hitting some of those yarn overs that we had created in the last row. So let me be clear, I am not a Portuguese knitter. This is just a great video for you guys to get an introduction. This is a dummies guide to Portuguese knitting.